Hey guys, welcome back to the Choosify Daily Special Edition. Bringing this to you 5 days a week, really, as we're all kind of going through this time together. We talked about it yesterday, how we kind of all woke up to a new world and what went from kind of like maybe kind of scary stuff coming our way, went to the world has forever changed. And so our show, which was really intended as a twice a week format, we're going to move it to daily because we're living this with you. There's no free passes here. You know, if you're on this path to financial independence, you certainly have advantages. You're excited that you started when you did, but it's not a get out of jail free card. And so, yeah, we're back for our second edition of this daily show. And to help me with this, I have my co-host Brad. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Jonathan, I'm doing well. Yeah, doing quite well. So, yeah, it's interesting. Like as we're kind of recording these just stream of consciousness here, the world has forever changed. I wonder, if we'll look back in a year or two and think that. I mean, I suspect so, but it's very, very hard to know. And it feels that way right now, but I think unfortunately we'll only know in hindsight. And I mean, maybe it has changed in positive ways, right? Like we've seen America and people across the world do things that we previously would have thought unthinkable, right? I mean, we have people, millions, tens of millions of people self-quarantining for the good of society. Like if that doesn't warm your heart, I don't know what does, honestly. I mean, 3 weeks ago, maybe even 10 days ago, could you have imagined 100+ million Americans how many ever 100 million Americans self-quarantining for the good of society?
It's incredible. And if you think about it, I saw a meme, and memes are normally so far on the fringe that you just kind of throw them out of hand. But this one just struck a chord with me. Now, I think I'll remember it probably forever now. Like our grandparents, in some cases our parents, for their country, they were asked to go to war. We are being asked as our civic responsibility, as our best way to serve our country, to sit at home on our couch and catch up on Netflix. Like, put that in context. I can do that. But it is.
Yeah, Laura showed me that one yesterday, and it's funny. It hit me in a similar manner, right? I think, it was about parents or grandparents or the greatest generation. I'm sure there are a bunch of different memes about this, right? But I mean, yeah, to think about what people sacrificed then, and yeah, I mean, for me, like I said on yesterday's episode, like I'm getting to sit here and hang out with my family. And I literally got onto this call 2 minutes before we hit go, and we were playing knockout basketball games in the backyard with the four of us. And I'm like sweating profusely. And I'm like, oh, I got to go record a podcast since we're doing this every day now. Like, that's what we're talking about here. But, obviously this is tongue in cheek to some degree, Jonathan. You're trying to you have to always look on the bright side, right? Because then you could look at the negative and say, well, the stock market has gone down 30%. I mean, as we're recording this literally at 2:35 p.m. on Monday the 16th here. I mean, everything can change in an hour, but the stock market is down almost 30% from its high from a month ago. And, if I want to sit here and cry and look at how many dollars I've lost on paper, I could do that too. So isn't that interesting, right? Like reality is truly what you make of it, right? And perspective is so important. That you can look at the same situation, and I have not thought of that until the negative side until right this second, because I've been focusing on I'm doing something really important I genuinely believe for society, and B, I'm having a ball in the process, getting to hang out with my family.
It's pretty cool, man. What's interesting is we can say this now officially. The bull market, the 11-year bull market, is over.
Yeah, it's true. I think what's the definition of a bear market is when it's a 20% drop in stocks from the recent highs. Is that the technical definition?
That's it. Yeah, and there's an important distinction there. So we are in a bear market. So the bull is over. But the question is then, because some people are maybe conflating the two, is this a recession? And Brad, I mean, you're familiar with these terms, a recession. Can you define that for our audience?
Yeah, my understanding is that is 2 straight quarters of negative economic growth as measured by the GDP. And, we are a couple of weeks into this, maybe a singular week into this. So by definition, we cannot be in a recession because we have no idea, right? It's not 2 quarters, it's 6 months. So unfortunately, it's hard to recognize except in hindsight. But, I think if you were asking me as a betting man, is this going to be a recession? As a betting man, I probably would say yes, but there is no way for anyone to say that by a technical definition right now. Whereas we can clearly say by any measure, we are in a bear market as far as the stock market is concerned.
I think the one thing at this point, and really even before this, but going forward, that we need to watch out for our audience, the best way that we can serve you right now is you cannot afford to panic sell at this point. Like you cannot do it. I think the question is, can you time the market? And this is kind of going off script here a little bit, but I want to say there was one individual in our Facebook group, probably maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago. The market had just taken a downturn. It was down maybe like 5 or 6% at this point. News was coming out of China, and he says, I think this is it. I'm just letting y'all know, I have moved all my stuff, everything. I have moved it all into cash. And the group response was, whoa. And, I didn't respond on that directly. But I think if you look objectively, if you look back 2 weeks ago, I think all of us would say, it'd be kind of cool if all of my money was in cash at the moment. That'd be kind of cool. But here's the problem. You only know that with the benefit of hindsight. And let's just lay this out just as a template for people to think about. This case, actually, it was a former guest of ours. It was Michael that said this. So I'll just give you credit. First of all, Michael, you got out, right? But here's the thing. If you look at how bull markets roll over time, typically we say that, every so often, every 5 years or so, we go from a bull market, and as cycle occurs, you have a bear market, and then back and forth, back and forth. And as we hit 5 years and 6 years out, individuals say, the stock market has never been higher. It's never been higher. Surely it's coming. And they just got all their money back on the sidelines, and they watched year after year after year of it getting 20, in some cases 30% returns, right? You just don't know. With the benefit of hindsight, but you just don't know. And so on the flip side now, individuals, see the market going down 20 or 30%. They listen to your question, Brad, and you say, yeah, I think a recession probably is coming. And they're like, well, could I pull all my money out now and just have it safe on the sidelines until I can get back in safely? And surely that's a good bet. To which I would say, Michael got lucky. I'm so happy for him. This is not a slight in any way. I'm so happy for him. He got lucky. It's amazing. But if you pull your money out now, you're taking unrealized losses and you're locking them in. And here's what's going to happen. Yes, maybe the market does go down further. But you're going to wait because you're going to think, well, it might go down even more. I don't want to lose any more. I want to make sure because I did this extreme move that I can actually catch the bottom. But you don't know where the bottom is. I can promise you in hindsight, I'll be able to tell you where the bottom was 100% of the time. But here's the thing. You're not going to be able to move quickly enough, and you're not going to be able to recognize the signs until you're benefiting from hindsight 2020. That's it, right, Brad? I mean, and you're going to miss it.
Yeah, you can't. It's almost impossible to get lucky twice in that regard. And I think as history has shown, being out of the market, certainly on those handful of amazing days when it does finally turn, which you can't predict anyway. Again, like you said, you're only going to know in hindsight. Being out of the market on those handful of days is going to crush your overall return over a 50-year period, right? And I think that's how we like to think. I mean, does this suck, right? I mean, let's be frank. Is this terrible in the short term for all of us who are looking and saying, okay, my net worth is down 30%. Yes, it does. Everyone thinks that. So let's all just be clear, right? We're not trying to put lipstick on a pig here. It is not pleasant to watch this. But I think our larger point, and really, we're just conduits, Jonathan, right? We're not worldwide experts on this stuff. We've had experts on our podcast talk about this. So where we are truly acting as conduits here of information is you cannot time this properly, certainly on both sides. And the time in the market is crucial over that long-term 30 to 50-year timeline. And things cycle. We know they do. We've had Jim Collins on the podcast numerous times talking about this in great depth. and they're going to cycle. You're going to see 30% drops. He said that specifically. You're going to see that numerous times over your investing lifetime. You have to steel yourself against it. And it's really hard when fear takes over, right? I mean, again, let's be honest here. Fear is taking over for some people. And that's just, it's fairly normal psychologically. I think that is why we've said all along, you have to prepare yourself for this because it is such a normal human emotion. Because right now, you can spin all these wild fantasies, which may or may not be fantasies. I have no idea, but these wild fantasies right now of where things are going. And you can convince yourself of virtually anything when fear has taken hold. So again, I'm not saying that like that's unrealistic because I simply don't know what the future will hold. But what I can say is you come up with a plan in times where emotions are not running high and you stick to that plan. And I think that is the best advice that we can give.
And, you know, the only other thing I would add on to that, and I'm going to kind of talk about it from the perspective of someone that felt the need to sell. And in Michael's case, you know, he got it. He got out in time. He's probably very happy with that choice. But to me, what really comes through is when you have a plan that correctly assesses your risk tolerance, you don't need to change the plan when news, you know, comes across, right? Like if you have not correctly assessed your risk tolerance, if you've not paid down your debt, if you've not built up your emergency fund, if your asset allocation does not match up with your timeline to need your funds, suddenly you're trying to course correct in the middle. And so I think what we're going to do, you know, in the coming days is we're going to spend some more time talking about how to assess our risk tolerance. And now we're in it. It's on the way down. And now someone's like, holy crap, I'm 100% equities. And I realize my risk tolerance doesn't match up to that. That, you know, it's fine to acknowledge that you can't afford to panic sell now. That's a horrible, horrible option. You're doing the exact opposite. You're going to totally, you're selling when everybody wants to sell. When that fear is palpable, you are selling low and you're locking yourself and you're creating a situation where you're going to have to buy high. We cannot do that. So we have to find a way to take a look at our risk tolerance. Even if that means now we're opening up our eyes and we're doing it with the current market, and we got to figure out what else can we do. And so I think that's going to be something that's going to be a point of conversation. So let me just lay this out. This is our second. It's a daily show. Join us each and every day, Monday through Friday, as we kind of generate this type of content and talk through it from different perspectives. We're going to be drawing from the experience of those who went through this in 2008 and those who are going through this now. We're going to be looking from the perspective of people that are just finding this concept and are paycheck to paycheck. What can they do to create margin? From the perspective of small business owners that realize that revenue is drying up and have people relying on them. What is a creative way to look at it? What are your options to minimize the burden both for yourself and also for those who are relying on you for income? We're going to be looking at this for the perspective of our community at large, a community of people. We don't get a free pass on bad things, but we look with a very intentional mindset, not from a place of fear, how to optimize with the situation that we've been handed.
Yeah, and Jonathan, we certainly are going to bring in experts like we discussed earlier, where we have people like Vincent Puglisi, who has been on the show, is the author of Freelance to Freedom. He has homeschooled his kids for a number of years. And now there are quite literally tens of millions of kids at home, and they need knowledge how, this homeschooling process, right? The parents need knowledge of this homeschooling process. And I think just having somebody like that, that's the type of value we're trying to bring to the audience here. This is not just going to be daily updates on what's going on in the stock market. That's the farthest thing from what we're planning with this 5-day-a-week show. This is how can we bring real-time information that helps everyone's lives? So that's just but one example, certainly. And I mean, I'm really excited to see. That's but one example, certainly. And I think, like we also discussed yesterday, this is going to be real time with the questions and the wins that you guys are having right now, right? This is, for many of us, unprecedented, right? For many of us who have never been through this before, we are going through it for the first time. And you have questions, you have concerns, you have things that you're doing positively. Like, we need you to reach out and tell us it. Send us an email to feedback@choosify.com, or even better, go to our Facebook group, and publish it there. And we will answer those questions. We'll bring on experts and we will talk through this because truly we are all in this as a community together.
And I guess I'll just add on to that. If you're hearing about this community, this concept of financial independence at the first time, maybe financial independence just seems too far to reach, but right now you're craving some level of financial resilience. Get started on this journey. Maybe now for the first time you understand the power of not living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe this was your wake-up call this week. Maybe this is the best thing that ever happened to your finances because you realize you can no longer tolerate paycheck to paycheck drift lifestyle. The hamster wheel no longer looks appealing. Go to choosefi.com/start. Get started on your path to financial independence today. We'll see you next time.